Last year I did a video where I scored every single game I played and I had a lot of fun doing it, so I decided to do it again. This year I played 39 games to completion, including expansions, and I have scored all of them. 39 games might sound like a lot, but given how incredible 2025 has been for game releases, that number doesn't even scratch the surface for all the new titles that I want to play. That being said, if you do not see your favorite games here, it is simply because I have not played them yet. As an editorial note, this is every game that I have played this year, so it will contain games that did not come out in 2025 as well. This video will be structured in a way where I will group all the games in that score together and list them out whilst highlighting a few notable ones that I want to talk about in more detail. For example, I'll go through all the 8 out of 10s, then the 8.5 out of 10s, and so on. Within their groups, the games are listed chronologically in the order that I played them, rather than which I think are the best. If you want to see how they place, then I'll be releasing my Game of the Year video soon, where I will announce my top 10 from this year in order and give them their flowers. If you want to support the channel, then please leave a like and subscribe, or leave a thumbs down and let me know how I can be better for you. As 2025 held such a high bar for quality releases, I didn't play a single game that I think deserved a lower score than a 7 out of 10, and the games I played that were not released in 2025 were high on my backlog. So with that in mind, this is where the video will begin, with the 7 out of 10s. Even though these were my lowest rated games this year, a 7 out of 10 is no score to turn your nose up at. These are all still good games. Sitting in here we have Legacy of Kain Soul Reaver 1+2 Remastered, Eternal Strands, and Atomfall. Legacy of Kain is a beloved franchise which I never played back in the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2 era. Sadly, I can see the potential of these games, but even the remaster couldn't make them feel great to play in the modern day. Some of the movement is just not good. I have flashbacks to the awful swimming. The story and impactful characters do make these titles shine through, however. Eternal Strands was an ambitious game from developers Yellow Brick Games. It was a Zelda Breath of the Wild-like where elements affect the environments and you could climb anything you wanted to. There was a little bit of Shadow of the Colossus or Dragon's Dogma tied in here, as you could scale bosses to hit weak points. I enjoyed my time with Eternal Strands, but it did get repetitive with limited elemental powers and weapons and smaller open zones to explore. I would look forward to seeing what this developer does next though. Atomfall was a game whose premise was something I loved the sound of. It was a mystery that didn't hold your hand. Read things, talk to people, find your way. Not to mention it was set in a quaint British town, something I obviously hold dear to my heart. The problem with Atomfall was that I didn't like the combat at all. In addition, after all the fantastic exploration and branching story paths, I didn't feel satisfied with any of the endings that I saw. Really, I think the elements of this game were done better in a title that ranked higher on this list, Hell Is Us. Speaking of, let's move on to the 7.5 out of 10s. In this ranking I have 9 Souls, Overcooked 2, The First Berserker Kazan, Despelote, Hell Is Us, The Outer Worlds 2, and Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. There are some high profile titles in here. 9 Souls was the game that started my 2025 and wow, it's tough as nails. I love the Sekiro style combat and the visuals could be excellent at times, but towards the end I was tired of getting my ass handed to me with what felt like superficial difficulty in some fights. It got to the point where I stopped having fun, bashing my head against the wall, and that's never a good thing. Overcooked 2 was a fun romp with my partner as we wanted to get some local co-op game time. As you will see later on this list though, we played some titles that were far better than this one. The First Berserker Kazan was a game I really look forward to as a lover of Souls-likes, especially after the demo. I couldn't wait to play more. Its focused action RPG systems and its amazing cel-shaded art style were massive pulls, but ultimately it fell into the same hole as 9 Souls. This game is plagued with superficial difficulty. It is incredibly difficult. In addition to this, some of the areas are really bland, which is a shame considering the graphical style. If this game was slightly shorter and had more tuned bosses that feel rewarding to learn, it would be an amazing title. I'll be looking forward to this studio's next project to see what they have learned. Despelote is a game most people probably wouldn't have heard about until the Game Awards season. It's a slice of life title set in Ecuador during the 2001 World Cup campaign. It is a documentary style narrative that blends the personal experience of the creator Julian with the actual political and social state of the country during this time. It holds very little substance from a gameplay perspective, but it is a short and eye-opening experience of a culture that I am unaware of for the best part, and I'd recommend it to anyone, especially given its 2 to 3 hour runtime. Hell Is Us took the same concept that drives Atomfall and did it better in my opinion. It is set in a dystopian country where war has ravaged the land between two primary factions. There is a mystical force that has taken over due to the horrors committed, and you must solve the mystery by heading to its source. Playing as Remy, a man who was born in this place but escaped as a young child, you are looking for any remnants of your family but end up trying to solve the whole mystery. There is no hand-holding here, you must refer to notes you pick up and people you have conversations with to solve mysteries. The combat is serviceable third-person action, and there are integrated leveling and elemental systems to enhance it further, although these do make it a bit too complex. I had issues with the lack of enemy variety and janky animations, but I did love the world building. I love Obsidian Entertainment, and they had a fantastic year this year with 3 game releases, another of which is higher on this list. The Outer Worlds 2 is a series in which I enjoyed the first game, but I don't think it's their best. The sequel is bigger and grander, but honestly I didn't like it that much more than the first. The shooting feels great, the floor system is one of the best things I've experienced in a game in recent memory, and the RPG elements are indicative of their prowess in this genre. However, the companions are not interesting, the story is middling, and I did experience a fair share of bugs. I played my first ever Metroid game this year with Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. This is Nintendo's highly regarded first-person Metroid series. Prime 4 has been in development for over 7 years and has changed hands, indicating there were some troubles. The game looks great, the best looking Nintendo game in my opinion, and the shooting feels really good. I like the linearity of it, and the traversal was awesome, but ultimately it lacks the sparkle of a big title in 2025. It has this inexplicable open desert as its hub area, which is almost completely empty. It has busy work and padding as part of its main quest to get to the finale. It has a main antagonist who feels completely irrelevant to the story. Prime 4 is a good game, a 7.5 out of 10, but the main thing it made me want to do was play the other games in the series. Now we move on to the 8 out of 10s. These are games I would say were great titles for a variety of reasons. They are Death Stranding Director's Cut, Lost Records Bloom and Rage, Citizen Sleeper, Mario Kart World, Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, Ghost of Tsushima, and Keeper. I never played Death Stranding before this year, but with the imminent release of the second, I wanted to make sure I played this one first. I've never been a fan of Metal Gear Solid though, I've only played 4 and 5. What I do appreciate is wacky storytelling, and we all know Hideo Kojima is king of that. Death Stranding truly is a game like no other. Playing as Norman Reedus, the main gameplay loop is walking and delivering packages with a system where you need to balance your weight. I found it very therapeutic walking through this world with its stunning environments, and I thought the story was batshit wild but in a good way. I didn't really like the combat at all though, and I did try to avoid it at all costs, but otherwise this game is great. A game I seem to be a lot higher on than most people is Lost Records Bloom and Rage. If there's one thing to know about me, as I'm sure you already would know if you've been following this channel, is that there is a special place in my heart for narrative first games. There are several others in this video that feature later on. One of my favourite games ever is Life is Strange, which was developed by Don't Nod before the rights of the franchise were handed over to Deck 9, who we see making the newer titles these days. Lost Records Bloom and Rage on the surface looks like Don't Nod returning to this style with their own new branding, and I was ecstatic. This game follows the story of 4 teenage girls in the 90s who come together 27 years later as adults to try and remember something sinister from their past. There are impactful choices to make, relationships to grow, and many different ending variations. This was an episodic release with 2 tapes a month apart, and I actually ended up favouring the first entry, which is unfortunate as you really want your ending to be better. I did spend a lot of time with this game this year and even spawned a couple of theory videos if you're interested in checking them out. This is nowhere near the heights of Life is Strange, as the story doesn't match how powerful that is, but I am excited to see where Don't Nod takes this franchise next. Carrying on in a narrative fashion is Citizen Sleeper. Obviously the second game came out this year, but I had never played the first, so I started there. Citizen Sleeper is a much more text-based narrative adventure, but with CRPG elements where choices have percentage-based outcomes comes in the form of a dice roll. Each decision progresses a day forward, so you are constantly making choices between things and you can't do everything. This game isn't too long, but it is incredibly well written and something I would recommend. It has clunky onboarding, which can be a bit complex, but if you can get past that, it's a captivating story. One of the biggest gaming events this year was the release of a brand new console with the Nintendo Switch 2. The launch game for this console was Mario Kart World, a franchise beloved by all. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe has been around for many years now and is regarded as the best kart racer out there by many. Mario Kart World promised an open world with interconnected tracks and a new mode with Knockout. Knockout Tour was amazing and something I enjoyed thoroughly. It was a mode where the last 4 are eliminated at the end of each track along one long race spanning 4 tracks. What I didn't enjoy, however, was the open world. They really missed the mark here as it is empty and boring. They have many P-switch challenges scattered about, but you can't pinpoint them on the map. You can't even track how many you've done, so ultimately it just becomes more frustrating than fun. It does have some great elements like the Knockout Tour I just explained, the soundtrack and Rainbow Road, but it's hard not to look at the ball they dropped attempting the open world. Ninja Gaiden Ragebound is the definition of an 8 out of 10 game. Gorgeous pixel art graphics, simple and endlessly fun combat, short arcade-like levels that can be replayed constantly, challenging platform sections, and superb boss fights. If this game had slightly more interesting levels and variation in character design, not to mention a better story, it could be one of the best games this year. The Game Kitchen are showing their mastery with this and the Blasphemous franchise, and I can't wait to see what they do next. Ghost of Tsushima is one of the many PlayStation titles that have passed me by over the years due to my console choices, but was near the top of my list due to the release of Yotei in October. This samurai epic open world action adventure is crafted so beautifully, with it mirroring the production quality of samurai films. The setting of 13th century Japan is insanely pretty, and the audio matches that level too. Some of the combat I loved, and some of it I found too clunky. It also fell in the trap that a lot of open world games do: bloat. There are side activities for the sake of side activities and no more than a checkbox with some minor loot. These negatives didn't draw too much away from this experience though, and I still thought it was great. These are the kind of things that you can see improved in a sequel, and not to spoil anything, but it doesn't look like we've seen the sequel yet on this list. Keeper is a different kind of title from developers Double Fine. You play as a walking lighthouse who must travel with a seabird companion to the center of an island to solve the mystery and stop the corruption. It is a dialogue-free adventure game with puzzles. It has the traditional psychedelic visuals that the studio is known for. The art direction is fully realized and it is a treat to look at. Keeper does some great things like constantly switching up the gameplay even though it is only a 6-hour title, and I thought the story was quite powerful even without words. This game won't be for everyone, but if you like the sound of it, then I would definitely recommend. Next up is the 8.5s out of 10. The games that was so close to amazing and didn't quite get there, but did stand a level above the greats. They are Ninja Gaiden 2 Black, South of Midnight, Doom the Dark Ages, The Altars, Elden Ring Night Rain, Shinobi Art of Vengeance, and Hollow Knight Silksong. Ninja Gaiden 2 Black is the second Ninja Gaiden on this list, but will also be the last as I didn't play Ninja Gaiden 4. Ninja Gaiden 2 Vanilla is a game that holds some of my best childhood memories with its over-the-top bloody combat, endless combos, and large pool of weapon types. Me and my friends had so much fun replaying the game strictly using different weapons and challenging ourselves on higher difficulties. The brutal chopping off of limbs and the execution system all contribute to the fast-flowing madness that gave us constant entertainment. Black is a partial remake where the visuals and animations are greatly enhanced, and it was such a good nostalgia hit for me. Sadly, it doesn't improve on the two downsides of the original, which are the boss fights and terrible camera. South of Midnight was a different style of game for developer Compulsion Games. It is a different style from most games actually, as it is a game set in the deep American South. Following Hazel, this 3D action-adventure title explored the legends and mythos of the South, combining them with a heartfelt story. great. South of Midnight has an amazing soundtrack, one that is incorporated into its gameplay, and it also has a stop motion art style which was incredible. This was a game that really shone this year, and I can easily say it's Compulsion Games' best to date. The one thing that could be improved is the combat, but all in all, it is a great experience. Who doesn't like Doom? This franchise is always great for giving hours upon hours of action-packed fun. Over-the-top combat and gory kills as you rip and tear your way through hordes of whatever hell throws at you. These titles have always been good at fulfilling that power fantasy. Doom the Dark Ages strips it back to have a medieval future setting where Doom Guy has a razor blade shield and even a mace. The shield is the main component of combat as it has many skills and traversal mechanics attached to it, as well as a sole way to parry enemy attacks. I had a lot of fun with the Dark Ages, but I'm not sure the introduction of mech and dragon flying levels were the best. Not to mention, I think the soundtrack is the least gripping of the new trilogy. The Altars was one of my biggest surprises of the year, a game I wasn't even planning on getting until I saw it dropped on Game Pass. Wow, this game is fantastic. It is a survival game that has insanely good writing and characters. You play as Jan, a lone space engineer trapped on a planet in a station you must maintain long enough to escape. You quickly realize this is impossible to do alone, and so you use its experimental tech to make altars of yourselves. These are not clones though, these are alternate versions of yourself that took different life paths. This presents existential crises and moral decisions that span way further than just right or wrong. I am not into survival games at all, but those gameplay systems are relatively easy to grasp and I didn't get frustrated by them. The story was strong enough to keep me invested. Play The Altars if you haven't done so already. From Software can do little wrong in my eyes. I've loved every single one of their releases since Demon's Souls. This year they tried something a little different with a predominantly 3-person multiplayer experience. Elden Ring Night Reign is a game that people turned their noses up to at first when it was announced at the Game Awards last year, but I think it exceeded most people's expectations, including mine. It still has all the great parts of From Software's games with the second to none action combat, the immense boss battles, and the deep lore that you can always delve deeper into if your heart desires. Sadly, this game also has some of their downfalls with no crossplay, no in-game chat, and little map variation, but it is still Elden Ring at its best. I beat all the night bosses that were available, and I know they have recently dropped an expansion which I am strongly considering as it certainly scratches that itch for meticulous combat. If you fancy teaming up with 2 others to partake in a roguelike adventure to defeat mega bosses in an Elden Ring setting, then this one's for you. Shinobi Art of Vengeance is a gorgeous return for the franchise. The art style is fantastic. It is an incredibly fun 2D action platformer from the guys over at Lizard Cube. It has flashy combat, great boss fights, and some optional tough platforming sections. Everything you could desire from a 2D Metroidvania. It impressed me with its many unlockable skills and abilities that refined the combat and made it fun to engage with throughout its runtime. 2D Metroidvanias had a great year this year, and it is evident with Ragebound, Shinobi, and now this next title. The highly anticipated Hollow Knight Silksong. It actually came out! 7 years in the making, rumored to be shadow dropped at every gaming event of the last 2 years, and Team Cherry just put up a video at the back end of August saying see you in 2 weeks. What absolute geniuses. I have never played Hollow Knight, so I couldn't make comparisons to that, but what Silksong is an excellently crafted Metroidvania. Every single platforming section and combat encounter requires you to be so intentional with your movements with little room for error. It is an insanely difficult game, but one that is so rewarding at the same time. It will frustrate you to no end, but when you finally beat the enemy encounter or finally pogo your way to the top of that platforming section, the pure feeling of euphoria you get can't be dismissed. I love Silksong, but it also tired me the hell out, if that makes sense. Now we start to really get into the high parts of these rankings, but there are still many games left. Next up is the 9 out of 10s, the titles that I think are amazing. Interestingly, this is the ranking where I have the most games placed this year. They are Avowed, Split Fiction, Life is Strange 2, Deltarune Chapters 1 to 4, Lies of P Overture, Sword of the Sea, Indiana Jones The Order of Giants, Ghost of Yotei, and Silent Hill F. As I alluded to earlier when talking about The Outer Worlds 2, Obsidian had another title higher on this list. Avowed is a game I am fully aware that I enjoy more than most, but I can't deny my own feelings. I adored this game. Fantasy settings are always my preferred, but what I loved most of all was the handcrafted first-person combat that was made to feel amazing. I loved the magic casting and dual-wielding wands as much as I loved swinging a sword. I thought the in-game world was gorgeous, and for the most part the companions were okay. The exploration was rewarding, and I always got invested with rummaging around in empty buildings or hidden caves. I hope Avowed 2 is the route Obsidian takes for the Pillars of Eternity franchise. If you want the creme de la creme of local co-op experiences, you have to look towards Hazelight. Their new title this year was Split Fiction, a sci-fi crossed with fantasy adventure. The premise is that you play as two writers, Zoe and Mio. One of them is a sci-fi writer and one is a fantasy writer. Due to some AI corporate bullshit, they get dragged into the worlds of their books, and you along with one other get to explore these vast worlds. What makes Hazelight games so good is their constant variation in gameplay. You are never doing the same thing for too long and are almost always doing something different, which is non-stop excitement. Like with all Hazelight games, Split Fiction comes with the companion pass, which means only one person needs to own and have purchased the game. The second player can join completely free of charge, even if it's not local co-op. If you follow this channel at all, you would have heard me mention several times how much I love Life is Strange. I've even mentioned it several times in this video. This is always referring to the first one, but I do also love Before the Storm and True Colors to a lesser degree. The one title that had slipped past me was Life is Strange 2, which I made up for this year. Turns out, it's also amazing. This story focuses on two brothers Sean and Daniel, in which you play as the powerless older brother Sean. It has great writing and narrative moments that made me literally weep. It deserves its place up here as a 9 out of 10. Deltarune Chapters 1 to 4 was a console exclusive on the Switch 2 for launch. I know that episodes 1 and 2 had been out for a bit before on PC, but all 4 episodes dropped with the Switch 2, which is when I picked them up. Toby Fox's previous game, Undertale, is a must-play experience for everyone. It is easily one of the most unique games I have ever played. Deltarune follows in those footsteps with similar mechanics, strong writing, distinct characters and areas, but it does lean a little more onto the RPG side. If chapters 1 to 4 are anything to go by, Deltarune is shaping up to be a bigger and possibly better game than Undertale ever was. I am looking forward to the next chapter releases in the coming years. We're this far into the list and we stumble onto the first expansion. Liza P is a 9 out of 10 game in itself in my eyes, and Overture keeps this quality throughout. It opens up a whole new world with several areas as it explores a new time period. This comes with new weapons, new upgrade paths, and 8 major bosses. Liza P puts its stamp on the Souls-like genre, with many people, including myself, saying it's the best that's not developed by From Software. Overture cements this. If you like Liza P, then you're gonna like this. If you like Souls-likes and haven't played Liza P, then what the hell are you doing watching this video? Go play it right now. Sword of the Sea is a simply stunning adventure puzzler. The art style and music make it one of the best feeling sensory overloads of the year. This is from developers Giant Squid, who did Abzu and The Pathless, so if you've played those games you know what to expect here. It is also composed by award-winning Austin Wintory, who got his recognition for Journey. Sword of the Sea has really fun traversal intertwined into its puzzle-solving story, where the playable character rides on its sword like a skateboard. You can do tricks like grabs, kickflips, grind on rails, hit half-pipes, and so on. Amazing visuals, amazing music, fun traversal. It was hard not to place this among the 9s. My second and final expansion on this list is The Order of Giants. If you watched my Game of the Year video last year, you would see that Indiana Jones and the Great Circle placed at number 2. That just goes to show how much I adored that game, so as you would expect, I couldn't wait to jump into this expansion. What I loved most was the true feeling of being indie by exploring these mystical temples and underground caverns, unlocking secrets of legends thought to be mere stories. That all returns in The Order of Giants, and each area of story progression requires a huge, major, multi-stage puzzle to be solved as part of the main mission, which honestly had me giddy. I love that Machine Games made this IP into a first-person immersive sim. What an incredible idea. The Order of Giants filled me with a joy to be back in this world again. It feels like so long ago that we spoke about Ghost of Tsushima, but that's okay because now I get to talk about Ghost of Yotei and why I think it's a better game. Firstly, I like the character and story of Atsu much better than Jin. With Jin, it always felt a bit weird to be doing the assassinating style of gameplay, but with Atsu it feels much more in character. Second, I significantly preferred the weapon system to the stance system as it felt more intuitive and had more flair. Third, it is a much more beautiful and colourful game than Tsushima. I really like the focus on yellow more than the red. Lastly, my main criticism of Tsushima was the open world blow, and I think Yote refines it much more and doesn't feel like it's wasting your time for the most part. It is less checkboxy and more rewarding for your efforts. It's all these enhancements that you would expect out of a sequel, and is why this title sits up here on a 9 for me, while Tsushima sits on an 8. As spooky season came about, I had 2 horror games on my anticipated list to play. The first was Chronos: The New Dawn, and the second was Silent Hill F, my first ever Silent Hill game. I had plans to play them both, but Chronos never saw the light of day simply because of how obsessed I got with Silent Hill F. Yes, I can agree with the complaints that the combat is not the best, but for me, it barely takes from this experience. Silent Hill F is not the scariest game, but it is unsettling and tension arises from every corner you walk slowly around. The feeling of just scraping by to survive is definitely front and center, but above all else is the excellent story. I don't think anyone was expecting this story to be so good. It really lifts the curtain and focuses on many societal problems that arose in 1960s Japan and are still here to this day in some cases. I played Silent Hill F 4 times to get the various endings and I never got bored. Silent Hill 2 Remake is downloaded and ready to go for whenever I next feel like playing a spooky game. A 9.5 out of 10 in most years would be the highest score I give a game. This would be a title that is so close to being a masterpiece, but it is not quite there yet. This year, however, was so good that this was not the highest score I gave. Here are the 9.5 out of 10s. It Takes Two, Bloodborne, Donkey Kong Bonanza, and Hades 2. Some people may be surprised to see It Takes Two up here, with Split Fiction sitting lower at a 9 out of 10. For me personally though, I think It Takes Two is a better game. I picked this game up at the start of the year with my partner as we wanted to get ready for Split Fiction. We have played several local co-op games before like Unraveled and the many LEGO titles, but we had never dived into the goldmine of Hazelight. After doing so, there really is no looking back. They are clearly the best at doing this formula, and while Split Fiction is obviously an amazing game, I preferred It Takes Two. It has slightly better moment-to-moment gameplay and a more endearing story. While Split Fiction has bigger spectacle moments and a better ending sequence, It Takes Two just left that little bit more of an impression on me that I couldn't stop thinking about, hence its placement on this list. As the self-proclaimed lover of From Software that I am, it is absolutely criminal that Bloodborne is a game I had not played in 2025. As I mentioned earlier, all this comes down to is my gap of PlayStation titles due to console choices that I am slowly rectifying. This title is many people's favourite in the genre and I can see why. This game is almost perfect in every way. It has the iconic FromSoft combat that they have mastered, but with a dialed up pace, a great variety of builds to experiment with over successive playthroughs, a completely obtuse story that if you dig into a bit will have you listening to Vati video content until you fall asleep, and perfectly integrated new mechanics like the gun parry and rally for health. Bloodborne differentiates itself from the Dark Souls series by having a world centered around horror and everything is dripping in this Lovecraftian style. It is easily one of the best games I played this year. I expected a new 3D Mario game for the launch of a brand new Nintendo console, as I'm sure many others did, but we got swindled by Nintendo as this was instead a 3D Donkey Kong game. I am joking of course, as I did not feel swindled at all. I adored my time with Donkey Kong Bonanza. This title was crafted by the studio behind Mario Odyssey, and you can definitely see their prowess growing as the quality here is on show for all to see. You can destroy pretty much anything, climb pretty much anything, and take whichever route you want in this game. The player choice and individual expression this game allows is phenomenal. The button layout is incredibly intuitive, the music is great, the challenges are super fun, and it just feels amazing to play. This is a game I would recommend getting the Switch 2 for. Hades was a phenomenal game, and Hades 2 is even better. It takes all the best things from Hades 1 and builds on that to include more refined systems and a lot more content. You have 2 paths to progress to add some variation to the roguelike gameplay. There is endless new dialogue between characters. I'm 35 hours in and still meeting new people. There are so many more tweaks to your build you can make with the Arcana cards and Witch's Cauldron, which mix up runs far greater than just the trinkets. The new protagonist Melinoe is more interesting than Zagreus in my opinion, and the constant unlocking of new things makes it feel like there is never ending content to engage with. The combat is more focused on witch-like abilities and magic, and it feels amazing to play with. Hades 2 is a game I will keep going back to in the years to come. And now we've made it to the 10 out of 10s. I can't believe I'm saying this, but there are actually 2 titles that get the accolade this year. These games are what I consider to be masterpieces and easily the best experiences of 2025 for me. They are Clair Obscur Expedition 33 and Dispatch. I would describe Clair Obscur Expedition 33 as a generational game. I still stand by what I said in my review that this is one of the best games I have ever played. It has all the trappings of a JRPG but made by a Western developer. The turn-based combat is beautifully crafted with its stylish animations, snappy UI, and the best parrying I have felt in a game in a long time. This is bolstered by the Picto system, which is fun to explore to make some super overpowered builds. The cherry on top is the story, which has the most engaging and unique premise in recent memory. A paintress who paints a number upon a monolith every year, and everyone who is that age or older dies. It is so impactful and emotional, and I was so invested with this story. To be honest, I still think about it now. The art direction is superb, the soundtrack is genuinely incredible and I listen to it all the time. The voice work is fantastic and the characters are relatable. There was no doubt in my mind that this was a 10 out of 10 game when I rolled credits. One of the most recent games I played on this list was Dispatch, the debut game from Ad Hoc Studio, which is made up of former Telltale developers. It is a choose-your-own-adventure style narrative game, much like The Walking Dead or The Wolf Among Us, but in a superhero workplace comedy wrapper. The art style is similar to that of the cartoons, best being compared to Invincible. It has a great story, even better characters, incredible voice work being led by Breaking Bad's Aaron Paul as the playable character, top tier comedic writing, romance paths, multiple branching endings, and choices that have meaning. I have played through Dispatch 3 times now and I've loved it every time. The episodic release structure has been implemented poorly by games in the past, but releasing 2 episodes a week for 4 weeks made it the perfect conversation starter. Each episode is an hour give or take, save the final episode, which is a perfectly digestible size. The dispatching gameplay itself was fun and I really enjoyed engaging with it. I loved working out who to be best for the job, identifying synergies between characters and varying my stat spreads across different playthroughs to create new personalities for them. Dispatch had it all for me and I can't wait for a season 2 with whatever that might entail. Check out my spoiler cast for more of my thoughts on that. And there you have it, every single game I played this year, ranked. Like I said at the top, this ranking is in order of the time that I played them rather than what I think is best. If you are interested to see them in a top 10 format, then keep your eyes peeled for my Game of the Year video coming soon. In the meantime, why don't you check out the channel for my reviews, spoiler casts and gaming discussions. Let me know what the best games were that you played this year in the comments below, and for everything else casual gamer, keep it here. Peace and love.